Right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Friendly Frequencies podcast once again. And today is, I know I say this every single time, probably every single episode, but today is a special episode. Everything's always special in my world, guys. But today it is special for me because it's my birthday. I am turning 24, and well, my birthday is tomorrow, which is when I will be posting this episode. So I thought I'd make it kind of a themed episode of 5 things. Actually, I thought of 5 things while I was writing down my 5 things that made this the most powerful and best year of my life. I want to share this. My intention behind sharing this is that me sharing what has made this the most powerful year of my life can hopefully help you make this the most powerful year of your life. That's the goal, right? If it's something that worked for me, chances are it'll work for most people. So I'm going to get right into it. I'm going to make it as quick as I can because these are very powerful stories that I've definitely made single episodes to like really go into each one. If you want to look through my episodes and if you want to know more, then you can go look for that. I can even link them actually in the show notes in case you want to hear the full story. I'm just going to give you the bare bones of it, so I'm not taking up too much of your time. So I'm going to go right ahead and say number 1 is set a vision for your life, okay? So setting a vision for my life was, and I should mention, I'm going in order right now. And I put it in order of when I learned the thing. So this isn't the first thing I learned, but out of the 5 most powerful things, the first thing I learned was set a vision for your life. And this was around the beginning of my time in the Philippines. And actually, I went to the Philippines just after my 23rd birthday. So I've been traveling about 1 year straight now since then, and so it's kind of a beautiful, a huge new chapter began after my last birthday, so it's really beautiful. So set a vision for your life. So when I set a vision for my life, and by this I actually set a vision statement, and I'm often encouraging people to set a vision statement for your lives because of what happened for me. So what happened was I was in a leadership training and we were setting visions for our lives, and so the vision for my life at this time was, my vision statement was, I am a generous leader traveling and changing the world with my vibration of love. And what happened for me right after that, okay, and I'll mention before this, is that at the time, and this is still a goal of mine, but at the time, in my mind, the way that I saw that happening was through this podcast and through public speaking and just through personal development, for sure. I knew that this was going to happen. I knew I would be a life coach at some point, and that was the vision for my life. And that just kind of encapsulated it. Of course, you can't measure that vision statement. It's not a SMART goal for sure. And that's the point, is that the SMART goals and the goals that actually are measurable and time-bound and things like this, those are what make up the vision, what kind of you use as the stepping stone towards that vision, yeah? So for me, though, what happened is I set this vision statement, and I was detached about how it would look. So as much as I could picture it in my mind, how I thought that would come to be, I was detached. I just knew that I'm going to be impacting people around the world, as I want to be traveling while I'm doing this, and I'm detached from how that's going to look. And then what happened was, the next day I met 2 guys from True Travels, and they asked me they told me you should apply as a tour guide in the Philippines and in Greece. And I haven't worked in Greece, but that was at the time what they were suggesting. And it was 1 day after I set this vision statement. And so for me, I believed that this vision statement was a major contributing factor to this. And what happened, I got clear on what I wanted. And what happened was I got an opportunity, a huge opportunity, which changed my life forever. And I took it. And I believe that this vision statement really just drew it in and made it a reality right away. And I didn't even realize until after. days later that, oh my gosh, I think this is exactly in alignment with my vision. Though I didn't imagine myself as a tour guide. But what happened was me becoming a tour guide for True Travels led to me becoming a transformation facilitator for DNA. And so, you don't need to know how it's going to look necessarily, and just be detached from that. And then look, just be open to all possibilities. And then setting this vision for your life, really, I believe that clarity creates the path to unlocking your sight of opportunity. I wrote this down because I'm like, ooh, it's a quotable thing that I just thought of in my head. It unlocks the path to sight of opportunity. It unlocks this path, right? For one, how will you know where you're going to go? How will you get anywhere if you don't know where you're going, right? This is step one. Also why it's very cool. It's the first thing that I learned that made my year so powerful. Is I set a vision for my life right at the beginning of my year, of my 23rd year. And it blossomed in huge ways. So just before I move on, I'll give one example, a nice analogy of this situation, right? And that is that there's a boat leaving the harbor with no captain, no map. And what do you think happens? Probably it sinks, or it just keeps going straight until it hits something and sinks. Okay? So regardless of what exactly happens, it's definitely not a successful ship. It's not a successful run, don't you think? So I'll give you another example. The same ship leaves with a captain and a map. Captain, map, both is best. And that symbolizes the vision. The map is the vision, right? Or maybe the captain is the vision and the map is the goals that gets you towards that. However you want to define it. But basically, with that map, the captain knows where to go. The ship knows where to go. And it's going to get exactly to where it's meant to be. It's going to know where to turn. If it doesn't know where it's going, it's not going to know where to turn. So this is the example that I love, that I heard from a video. And yeah, so I just wanted to share that. So I'm going to move on to number 2. Number 2 is choose the risky and uncertain option. Okay? So I say choose the risky and uncertain option anytime that you are given an option of this or that. So for me, this is my example. And the beautiful thing about this is that I made a podcast episode about this in the moment of when I made that decision, because I felt like it was already a powerful decision that I had made, and it already was worth making an episode about. What I didn't know at the time was that decision would change my life forever, right? I figured that it would, but I didn't know how it would, because I can't see in the future. So what I actually did was I went back to that episode when I was reposting my episodes few months ago, after 10 months has passed since then, and I actually added a bonus 5 minutes of me explaining, okay, now that it's Carmen from the future, I'm adding on to my Carmen from the past episode of this is what actually happened as a result of this, and I'll just tell you now. Hope that made sense. But so the situation in short was that I was working on a remote island in the Philippines, beautiful paradise, huts on the beach, absolute heaven. And I was offered by the guy who owns the place, wanted me to stay and paint some more murals. I had already been there for 2 weeks, I believe. He wanted me to stay longer, and he offered me money. He offered me many things, actually. He even offered me a van to live in at some point, somewhere else in the world, in Scotland, I think. He offered me many things because he has money and he really wanted me to stay for this purpose, for these murals. And I had another job to go to, another mural job to go to. And so another commitment. But this commitment, I had no idea anything about it. I didn't know what it looked like there. All I knew is that it was near a beach, because I did see a picture of water. But it was a blurry picture. I didn't know any of the people. I didn't know the circumstances. I really knew nothing about this situation. So I had this option, all right? And I feel like it's another analogy of this would be the game shows of when they have the mystery door of you don't know what's there, or you have You can choose this car or this like really amazing thing, this trip to Hawaii, or you can choose the mystery door and you have no idea what it's going to be. Could be better, could be much worse, right? And that's how it felt, right? And I had only one day to decide this, maybe half a day to decide this. So it was a hard decision, needless to say. So I decided to choose the riskier option, right? So I decided to go to the other mural job. And what transpired from there was I arrived at this place, and it was a few hippie Filipinos drumming on the beach in this adorable little hut, and it was just like, and it was a small kind of province area. It was in the provinces of Palawan in the Philippines, and I was the only foreigner for miles, so of course it was again a lot of attention, it was weird, still weird for me because I was still new to traveling at the time, and but it was, as soon as I arrived, I was like, wow, I'm home. And not that it was any better than the place I was before, but it was new. It was another place to go. Like, I was so happy I didn't miss out on being at this place, right? And what happened was I learned how to djembe. And for those of you who don't know what a djembe is, it's a drum. It's kind of like a bongo, similar to a bongo. And maybe you've seen me play with many bands along my time in the Philippines. I think I played with 8 different bands in the Philippines alone. And anytime I was anywhere that had a live music or had any djembe around, which was basically everywhere because everyone has a djembe, I would just ask if I could play with them. And they would just let me jam. Every time, because Filipinos are the best, and bless their hearts, but they would always let me play with them. Also, and sometimes I would see their faces, like they would be like, who's this white girl? Like, I hope she can play, because even one time it was a full concert. I think twice I played with hundreds of people as the audience, and one was a legitimate concert, and they let me up on stage during the final show, the final act. And I could tell they were nervous because it was kind of to let me just randomly go up on stage, and I knew they took a chance on me, and they did, and I rocked it. And so, I mean, now I have a djembe of my own. I'm absolutely obsessed, and I've never had an instrument. I did instruments as I was growing up. I tried different ones. My mom got me trying different ones. Nothing ever stuck for me. I never thought I was good at any of it. And then I tried djembe, and I love it. And it's something I can bring everywhere and add to any type of music, and it's just become such a beautiful part of my life. So I'm so incredibly grateful that I chose the risky and uncertain option. Because if I had stayed at that island, it would have been great, but I knew that I had learned what I needed to learn there. I don't think I would have learned a whole lot more. I mean, I don't know exactly what would have happened, but so that's the takeaway there. Okay, I'm really glad that I chose the riskier and uncertain option, and I highly recommend to everybody that whenever you're faced with a decision like this, is to choose the door that is unknown, because I can guarantee you, even if it ends up in shit, even if it ends up in disaster, that's a better story, isn't it? And it's character building. So really, no matter what happens out of that, I think for me it's worth it. So there's nothing to be afraid of in that situation. The thing I would be afraid of is to miss out on something that I don't know, rather than choosing something that I do know. If I choose certainty, well, that's just not as fun, guys, in my opinion. So number 3 is life is a compilation of stories that we are telling ourselves. Okay? So the story that goes along with this is when, also in the Philippines, I think most of these are from the Philippines because I spent the majority of my year there. And so this is also something that came from what I learned. It originated in the leadership training that I did called Next Level. I learned there that life is just a compilation of stories that we are telling ourselves. And this was actually this was the source of one of the biggest breakthroughs I've ever had in my life, because it was a block that I had, a limiting story that I had that was shaping my reality for literally as long as I can remember. And that story was that I can't get along with women, and that I'm more able to get along with men. That was my story for my whole life. The cause of this, I'm not totally sure. I've always felt more comfortable around men. I have 2 brothers. I played hockey with men my whole life, boys, men, and that might have contributed to it. But I always felt more comfortable that way. But because of whatever started that mindset, is that I continued to tell this story to people anytime it would come up, right? I would talk about myself as I don't connect well with women very easily. So out of 10 men and 10 women, I would probably get along with all 10 men. I'd probably get along with maybe two or 3 women out of those 10, just to give it into numbers. And the rest of them, I would just not be able to relate to them. It's not like we wouldn't get along, but I didn't want to necessarily talk to them or be around them. And what got me past this and what broke me through this story was that I learned that life is just a compilation of stories, and actually we can choose not to live in that story anymore. And so what happened was I had my friend Kelsey on the podcast, and she's a powerful woman, this one, and she just had me so filled up with divine feminine energy, you guys. And I just was laying in bed afterwards, and I was so filled with her energy that I just thought, wow, I just want more women like this in my life. And then in that moment, I decided, I'm cutting this story out of my life. This is not my story anymore. I can connect with women, and I am not, never again am I going to say I can't connect with women. It's not my story anymore. And I believed it, genuinely. I knew that this was the end. I just decided. It was literally a choice. And it worked. It worked. I actually have, since then, I have always been able to connect with women, no problem at all. Now it's just a matter of, some people are for me, some people are not for me, but for the most part, I'm only attracting people in my life that are in alignment, and I'm going to get onto that. That's a kind of a preview for one of the next things that I've learned. But along those lines, yeah, of course, not every single woman I meet I'm going to absolutely love and want to be spending time with. Same with men. I don't get along with every single person. Not everyone is my person. But now it's evened out. It's like, now it's just about the person. It's not about the gender of the person. Because that baggage that I had, whatever trauma around women I had, or whatever started that story, it was no longer the problem anymore. I released it. I had, in that moment of cutting that story out of my life, I think I had really forgiven, whatever women maybe have hurt me. I have been hurt by women in the past, like anybody else, right? I've had friends in the past that were also my biggest bullies, and they treated me very poorly, and I allowed them to, and it was I remember it felt very abusive, but it was part of my process, actually, and I'm glad that it happened, and it led me to, I think, having a distance from women, because I think I'd been more hurt by women than I had been by men when I was younger. And so I think that in that moment of cutting that story out of my life, I think that was unknowingly, I think I was really fully forgiving these girls that had hurt me in the past. So it's a very powerful thing that you can do, is just to decide. The power of a decision, right? Because not deciding is also a decision. So if you continue with whatever story is holding you back from whatever it is going on, continuing that is also a decision, right? No decision is a decision. And so if you decide that this is no longer your story, see what happens. It could work, right? It worked for me. Now, I've tried it with other things as well. Doesn't work for everything. It's not always that easy. Sometimes there's a lot more things to clear out than just this declaration, but it just depends on all of the moving factors, of course, right? So I want to plant that seed for you that maybe you can have a look at what is your limiting story? Everybody's got them. I've got plenty more that I can release anytime now, but this is the most powerful one, and this was a very powerful breakthrough for me. So, am I going in? Yes, sorry. Number 4, and this is what I was preempting just a second ago. Number 4 is relationships are mirrors. Relationships are mirrors. And what do I mean by this? I mean that the people you are attracting into your life are a direct reflection of how you see yourself. This is what I've come to learn, okay? Through my own experience, every person in my life now is in alignment with me because of the level of alignment I have within myself. So I am not surrounded by men who treat me like shit anymore, ever. Since my last birthday. Or probably even before that, actually. Definitely, I can confidently say in the last year, I have not been mistreated by a man. Maybe even by a woman either, that I can think of. And I've only been treated like pure gold by people around me. And I've come to understand that the reason for that, my understanding of the reason for that, is that I fucking love myself. I love and accept myself exactly the way that I am. And that allows other people to accept me for who I am too. Right? So I've learned that relationships are mirrors. There's a lot of things are mirrors, not just relationships, but just, I'd say, interactions with any person can be seen as a mirror. Any meaningful interaction, and that could be a positive or a negative one. And I'd say especially the negative ones are ones to look into. So when somebody is triggering you, I would say, or what my mom would say to me is, dive into that trigger. There's something in you that needs to be healed. It's not about them. It's about you. There's something to heal. It's exciting. Get excited about a trigger. My mom actually gets excited when she's triggered by something. And it's led me to be in that position as well. Like, I am excited to dive into my triggers as well. Because there's a new level. It's like I'm unlocking the next level of this. So, in regards to the relationships, and it's definitely romantic relationships, I'd say this is the biggest way that I've noticed this, is in romantic relationships, right? If I look back to when I was, say, 15 and I had my first boyfriend, and the quality of relationship that we had versus now the quality of relationships that I'm experiencing at this time in my life, for sure, it is like night and day. I allowed myself to be treated poorly, very poorly, when I was 15 and as a teenager throughout my adolescence. And I also treated other people poorly. I also didn't know how to be a good partner as well. Because, of course, that's the things that you learn through having relationships throughout your life. So, of course, you're going to get better, hopefully. You're going to get better every single time. Every single time you're going to learn something from the last relationship that will make you a better partner in the next relationship. And just a better person and just a better partner with yourself. So I've come to be my own girlfriend, my own best friend. I've come to a place where, it's me. I'm here. I'm all for it. I'm here I'm here and I'm fully complete. I don't need another person to make me happy. I don't need any external thing, actually, to make me happy. I feel that I've unlocked my happiness from the inside out. And what happens when it comes out is that vibration attracts people who are in alignment with that. It's exciting because I feel that, and I didn't actually notice until pretty recently how much every relationship I've had is a direct reflection of how I feel about myself. So how I felt about myself at 15, well, probably very insecure, and with a list of things, of course. Everybody was 15 once, you know how that is. And then as I look at every relationship I've had since then, they up level. Dramatically, they up level. Even from my first to my second relationship, dramatic difference. Dramatic up leveling. And even that one, still wasn't great. And then to my next relationship, another even more dramatic up level. And these are spaced out between a few years, right? And fast forwarding to now, I have up leveled many, many times. And now I'm in the point of my life where I'm experimenting with short-term relationships, and not as much experimenting anymore. I'd say that I definitely was experimenting a lot in the Philippines because that was my first introduction to short-term relationships. And I learned how powerful those are, and I learned so much about myself and about how I show up in relationships. I learned many things. I learned that I really have the power to hurt people. I hurt people there. And not intentionally, of course, but I did, and I take responsibility, and I learned from every single one of those. And I had been hurt. I had hurt other people. And that's just the name of the game, isn't it? But what I've noticed is it's always a direct reflection of myself. And so now, I would say I'm in the strongest, most compatible relationship I've ever been in. And so I am dating somebody from the Philippines, actually. And it's, it is the most compatible thing that I've ever experienced. And I'm treated just as powerfully as I treat myself. He shows up for me the way I show up for myself. And so when I'm talking to others, I've had conversations with women before, and with men as well, actually, with a man recently about this. Speaking about how there are no good men out there. Men are the worst. There are no conscious men. Why do I keep getting treated this way? I can't trust anyone. Things like this, right? I don't know if this is something you've ever said before. I've definitely said it before in the past. And what I would say to this person is that, how do you feel about yourself? Just as a curiosity question. So I do my very best out here to not be telling people or giving people advice all the time. I'm not great at that. I'm great at giving advice, and I'm great at giving advice when it's not asked for as well. So much better to ask questions. But what I would ask this person, so say if you're somebody who says this, who finds yourself saying things like, there are no good men out there. Where are all the good men? I'm going to challenge you to hold up the mirror. How do you feel about yourself? To what degree do you accept yourself? Everything you are, everything you're not, everything you're never going to be. And how do you speak to yourself? What is that internal dialogue saying? How do you feel? That's the biggest one, guys. How do you feel? Because that's a vibration. How are you vibrating? How you vibrate is going to dictate the kind of feedback you receive from the world. And that's going to mirror in relationships with other people, because other people are the best type of mirror you can receive, in my opinion, because they're also human beings, right? We literally do mirror each other when we're together. Human beings mirror the body positioning of other human beings as an unconscious thing that we do, right? In order to connect more with people and be accepted and loved and safe. But when you look at it as a kind of a guess you could call this like a spiritual lens, or in a deeper lens, really, a reflective lens. I believe relationships are mirrors, and I'm happy with the mirror that's being pointed at me right now. I'm happy with what I see. I'm happy with what I feel. And I'm excited because it only gets better and better. It just keeps getting better, guys. Every year of my life gets better than the last one. So I can't even imagine how much better could it get? How much more compatible with someone could I possibly get? Even if it wasn't possible, I'm happy. I'm happy. And it's beautiful. Yeah. So I'd say this is a huge thing that I've learned in the last year of my life. The last year of my life has been the most powerful year relationship-wise as well. In most areas, it's been the most powerful year, but especially relationship-wise, because it's my first time really being single. Being single and empowered and on my own and just fully expressing myself. And this leads into the next one. I'm loving these little transitions I'm doing by accident. So number 5. Body over mind. I am not my thoughts. Okay, this is the last one I'm going to talk about. And this is the most recent one that I've learned. I am not my thoughts. This was introduced to me. I remember reading a book called The Untethered Soul. This was introduced to me first from that book. And this was actually when I left home just after my last birthday, flying to the Philippines. I remember laying on the floor in the airport trying to sleep, but it's freezing cold, and I'm just listening to The Untethered Soul, and I just remember it for the very first time. I understood that I can notice my thoughts as a separate entity. I had never thought about it like that before. And then, so that was what planted the seed, but it really didn't blossom until I got to India 2 months ago, or 3 months ago now, I don't know how long. And when I was in India, living at this commune, which I made an episode about as well, a big takeaway I took from that was that I am not my thoughts. And how revolutionary was that for me? It has led me to this path of embodiment. It's led me to remember that, remember to remind myself to be in my body and not to be in my mind. And I don't even have to ask myself or tell myself, don't be in your mind right now. Stop thinking, right? That's a big misconception of meditation. Stop thinking. Get out of your mind. For me, I don't have to ask myself to stop doing that, or I don't have to tell myself anything or force myself to do anything. It's more that I just notice when I am in my mind. It's as easy as that. That is, to me, that's what meditation is. It's just noticing and being present to the thoughts. Because as soon as you notice the thought, it fizzles away immediately. For me, I label my thoughts as past or future when they come up, when I'm meditating specifically, or just in life. Sometimes I'm just labeling my thoughts because immediately it fizzles away. And it's without judgment, right? I don't need to judge myself for what I'm thinking or for the fact that I'm thinking at all. I'm just noticing. And so that's led me to this path of being in my body. So now, I'm living in Koh Phangan, Thailand. The music here is incredible. Anytime I'm going out, I'm dancing like a bloody maniac. I'm throwing my ass in a circle probably every single day. Whether I'm twerking in the mirror, twerking because my friend said something that made me want to twerk, which is basically anything now. And of course, I'm out. If I'm ever out at a party or a thing, I'm absolutely dancing like I just don't give a fuck. And I feel like this wild, embodied, powerful woman. There's no feeling like this. This is probably one of the most transcendent feelings that I've ever experienced, and it's pretty new because I've always been a very crazy dancer. I've always loved to dance and just not give a fuck about what people think. And I've always done this at festivals and things, but I think now because I feel like so much more embodied, more powerful, more happy, You know, I have more of an ass. I never used to have an ass. I was very skinny my whole life, and then now I actually have a bit of an ass to throw back. So, and I also learned from my girl Sahara Rose, and yes, I talked about this very recently actually in my sex episode, about how trauma is stored in the hips, and the more you twerk, the more you're releasing trauma, essentially. And so I thought of this as like, wow, because she talks about it like it's a spiritual practice, and I started doing it because she's like one of my idols. I just like love everything that she's all about, and I took it on. I started twerking a lot, and it's just so much fun. It's so much fun. It makes me so happy, and it's a good exercise. So these are correlated because as soon as you bring your attention to your body, and this can be done through breath, through walking, through dancing, through twerking, it can be done just by sitting here in my chair. As soon as I'm bringing my attention to my body, I'm out of my mind. Well, I'm still in my mind. Actually, I'm, people say out of my mind as if, oh, you're out of your mind. That means that you're crazy, right? Well, it's quite the opposite. I think you're truly sane and you're truly grounded. You're truly here. You're truly human once you get out of your mind. And this can only be done through practice, through meditation. Meditation. And I mean, meditation comes in so many forms. For me, this is how I came to this place and I'm saying it's not the only way, probably, but for me, the best way for me to have gotten to this point is to, one, learn from people. So reading books like The Untethered Soul, and one is The Power of Now, I'm reading at the moment, which is really solidifying it for me that I am not my thoughts. I'm separate from my thoughts. My thoughts do not control me. I draw on my thoughts when I choose to. Or at least that's the end. That's not the end goal, but that is definitely that's where I'd like to be. I can't say that I'm fully there yet. Of course, my thoughts still take over my mind a lot of the time. I'm definitely not quite there yet. But I'm noticing, I'm on this path of actually realizing that my thoughts will keep me imprisoned as long as I allow them to. And they will control my life. And they will allow my ego to control my life and hold me back and hold me in place and keep me paralyzed. My thoughts and my ego will want me to choose the certain option, the less risky option, right? But when I feel in my body, when I'm in my body, that's when I really feel. I feel the intuition telling me, no, choose the uncertain option. I like that these are kind of linked with each other. So, another thing, just before I finish this part, is that I've really noticed my meditation practice. I've been meditating now for about 2 years, on and off every single day. I've now come to the point where I'm meditating every day, no question. It's non-negotiable. No matter what I meditate, even if it's 5 minutes, I'm doing it every single day now. And now over 2 years, now I finally am actually noticing these, I'm noticing the compound effect, okay? The compound effect is a very, very powerful thing. I did learn it a bit before this, it wasn't necessarily this year that I learned this, but I'm really seeing the compound effect. So like the result of a small decision I make every single day consistently. So deciding to meditate every single day has compounded to me now having a lot more control over my thoughts, and actually that is mirroring into the other areas of my life. Again, mirrors. Everything is a mirror, I think. So one example of this is sex. I actually can see the meditation is coming through in sex. And I've noticed now, as I've been really on this process of awakening sexually, and I made an episode on this one already, but I'm really in the process of training myself and my body. And I'm noticing now through this self-pleasure practice that I have, that, and it's a discipline. It's like I am committed to doing this at least like 3 times a week. I've committed to, and because if you don't use it, you lose it. For women, if you don't use it, you lose it. If you're not horny, or if your libido is shit, as a lot of women go through at some point in your life, which I went through for most of my life, how much are you using it on your own? Like, how much do you really know your own body, right? I'm not going to get too far into this because I've definitely made a long episode about this already. But for me, the point here is I really noticed that my meditation practice has come through in my sex life. And for the most part, my sex life is mostly just with myself. And which is what I need right now because I'm still learning. I'm still going through this awakening, which I believe needs to be done on my own at the moment. But where was I going? Let me just gather my thoughts for a second. I noticed that actually when I am able to be out of my thoughts and in my body, well, fair enough to assume that things get ramping up pretty quick, you know, when I'm in the bedroom. Like, I can really feel things so much more. I can actually experience pleasure, which I can't experience actually if I'm thinking about things. So if I'm thinking, all the bodily sensations are kind of dulled a lot or just completely turned off they're not turned off, but I'm not noticing them because I'm thinking too much. So now I'm noticing that now that I'm able to recognize my thoughts really fast, and then right when I recognize it, it goes away naturally, and pay attention to my body, then the sensations get more heightened. Then I'm able to get really into it. That's the source of my healing right there. That's a huge breakthrough that I've also had, because next to the thing with women and getting along with women, I'd say sex is the biggest breakthrough I've ever had in my life as well, those two things. So both have been happening in the last year. And so this one is still a continuous breakthrough that is not, and probably never will be fully broken through, but it's been a long process of me discovering and rediscovering myself as a sexual being and somebody who is capable of doing things that I never would have thought that I could do. So there you go, guys. Those are the 5 things that made this the most powerful year of my life. I'll state them out again just so that you can remember, just to like summarize. Number 1, set a vision for your life. Get clear on what you want and why you want it, and just detach yourself from how it's going to happen. But of course, a long side note from that, and then create goals to get you towards that vision. That's very important. Create the goals and actually take action. Very, very important. It's not just about the vision, but the vision is the step 1, right? Step 2, choose risk and uncertainty. Always choose the risky option, the uncertain option. Number 3, life is a compilation of stories that we are telling ourselves. So whatever that limiting story is, snip it out, snip it away, see what happens. Make that decision, declare it, and make that decision that it's not your story anymore. Number 4, relationships are mirrors. So, how do you feel about yourself? What's your relationship to yourself? How does that correlate with the relationships you're experiencing from other people? Romantically, relationships with friends, family, everybody in your life. And finally, you are not your thoughts. Bring yourself back to your body. From your mind to your body. You are not your thoughts. Okay, so those are the 5 things. I wonder if I can come up with a quick question for each one. I haven't thought about this ahead of time. Okay, let's just go on. Okay, I'm going to give you can write these down. You can write these down. I'm just going to state them out. 1, what is the vision for your life? What do you want? Why do you want it? I already asked you this. 2, let's see. 2, what was a time that you had the option to choose something risky or uncertain? And did you choose it? And did that work out in your favor? Or did you choose the more certain option? And do you think that worked out in your favor? Which one do you think would have been better? I don't know. This is one you could look into the past, but this one is more about, okay, when it comes up in the future, I want you to draw on this more so. Okay, 4, another question would be, how are your relationships a mirror? What are the mirrors showing you about your relationship to yourself? And 5, what's a question I could ask you about this? having a hard one with this one because I'm just coming up with them on the spot. I'm trying to think of what's the one that could be with body and mind. Are you your thoughts? What do you really believe about this? What do you think? Just curious. Do you think that you are your thoughts or your body? Or neither? Maybe you're something else? A soul? A consciousness? I don't know. I'm starting to read out a poem that I wrote. Anyways. Okay, and then what is your meditation practice? Your self-pleasure practice for these women out there, okay? For the women listening, and for the men, why not? But I don't know how it is for men, I can't really speak, but like for women, what is your self-pleasure practice and how is your meditation practice? And if you don't have either, well, what is your commitment then to getting on board with that? Because I can guarantee you, I mean, maybe you already have a killer sex life, maybe you're already super present and happy, great. But if not, I recommend that you give it a try. Okay, so that's all. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for the love and for just being a part of me on this journey. Thank you for an amazing year. This year would not have been nearly as incredible without the love and support by all of you guys. So thank you. And I can't wait for another year to come. Wow. Okay, time to start intention setting. Love you. Bye. This isn't the first thing I learned, but out of the 5 most powerful things, the first thing I learned was set a vision for your life. And this was around the beginning of my time in the Philippines. And actually, I went to the Philippines just after my 23rd birthday. So I've been traveling about 1 year straight now since then, and so it's kind of a beautiful, a huge new chapter began after my last birthday, so it's really beautiful. So set a vision for your life. So when I set a vision for my life, and by this I actually set a vision statement, and I'm often encouraging people to set a vision statement for your lives because of what happened for me. So what happened was I was in a leadership training, and we were setting visions for our lives, and so the vision for my life at this time was my vision statement.